Hey, this is Lady C coming at y'all for another video. And I hope that everything is going well and you had a good new year. And you know how the new year starts off loud. You know, everybody talking about goals, resolutions, and big plans. And then a couple of weeks pass and things quiet down. And that's usually when people really start thinking. If you've been out of a controlling environment, no matter what it is, it could be Jehovah's Witness, it could be any religion, it could just be a stressful job. Whether it's been 1 year, 5 years, or a couple of decades, you may start noticing something shift. You start looking back, and things that used to hurt or confuse you, they don't hit the same way anymore. I mean, sometimes you even smile to yourself. I was thinking about that the other day. I started laughing a little when I thought about why certain people at the Kingdom Hall had such a problem with me. And it wasn't anything mysterious. I wasn't going out in field service enough. I wasn't performing the way they wanted me to. I appeared to be doing too well for their comfort. Too many clothes, too much independence, and I chose not to work part-time just so I could pioneer. Now that was later, because I did pioneer for several years before I got married, but I'm talking about my later years after I got married. Now, back then, it felt personal. It felt like judgment. Like, hey, something's wrong with me. But now, y'all, I see it clearly. I mean, the congregation wasn't set up to support people. Think about it. It was set up to measure them, not to support us, but to measure us. The rules were laid out in the Watchtower publications. Everyone got the magazines, everyone read the magazines, and they knew exactly what people were supposed to be doing. That's right. The expectations were spelled out, and then people were trained, and I said this again, trained to monitor one another. So it wasn't like it was the Watchtower Society that was standing over top of you saying, how come you didn't do what we printed in this magazine? It was the people that was reading the magazines that was interpreting what you were supposed to be doing. And trust me, that was not by mistake. The Watchtower knew exactly what they were doing, and they knew just how to make the system work from within the congregations. They knew just how to put these statements in these articles to make people look at each other and say, hey, look, you're not measuring up. So it's like, who's doing enough? Who could be doing more? And who's falling short? I mean, everybody became a little Inspector Gadget. So when someone didn't perform the way the system expected, it stood out. Not because they were bad people, but because they weren't compliant. And let me say this one time, and I might have to say it again, but check this out. There were always people that gave waivers to their friends and their family. So everybody didn't always get the side eye when they weren't doing the things that Watchtower wanted them to do. It was like a few people got a waiver. And even people would look at themselves and say, this don't apply to me. So and then there were people that were still invited to the get-togethers and the gatherings, even though they didn't do all of these things, okay? But anyway, that's the part I smile about now, because it was never about spirituality. It was all about performance. So if you're looking back on your own experiences and wondering why people treated you the way they did, why you felt watched, why you felt judged, it might help to ask this instead. Was I actually doing something wrong? Or was I just not playing the role the way they wanted? Those are two very different things. And here's the part I really want you to sit with tonight. If you can look back now without shame, without needing to explain yourself, without trying to prove anything, you know what that means? That's growth. That's distance. Y'all, that's freedom. So if you're in that stage where reflection feels calmer, clearer, and lighter, that's not you being cold. That's you finally seeing things for what they were. And I want to add one more layer to this, because for a lot of people, the hardest part isn't the organization anymore. It's the family. Especially when you're still not included. You're still on the outside. You're still treated like you're missing something. And I had a moment where I asked myself a very honest question. If my family that's still in the religion did allow me back into their regular routine, would I even want that? And when I really sat with it, the answer, it really did not surprise me. Because when I think back to what those spaces were actually like, they weren't neutral, they weren't relaxed, and they certainly weren't about real connection. Because the conversations were always centered around the organization. Somebody talking about a Bible study making progress under their watch. Somebody announcing they quit their job to pioneer. Someone heading off to Bethel, the circuit work, or some other new assignment, and everybody standing around clapping. And so they're celebrating what looks like sacrifice while watching people sink deeper into free labor with no benefits, no security, and no real future protection. Woo! I said a lot. And under all of that, it was a performance. People proving how devoted they were, trying to look more spiritual than the next person, trying to be more liked by the ones watching. You could feel it. I mean, you could feel it. So when I think about not being included now, I ask myself something different than I used to. Am I being excluded from love, or am I being excluded from a stage? Because those are not the same thing. And if I'm honest, I don't miss having to perform. I don't miss measuring my worth by how visible my spiritual activity was. I mean, I don't miss conversations that weren't really conversations at all. They were updates, announcements, and proof of loyalty. That's all they were. So if you're dealing with family distance right now, and you're questioning what you're really missing, it's okay to ask yourself that same question. If I were allowed back in, would I actually feel at home in their presence? Or would I just be expected to play a role again? I mean, that reflection doesn't make you cold, and it doesn't make you bitter. And it certainly doesn't mean you don't love your family. It just means you see the difference now between belonging and performing. And once you see that difference, it's hard to unsee it. Just something to think about as the year settles in. I just want to come out and just share that with y'all this evening. And I welcome you to, be in my audience for more like-minded information as I try to help people put the pieces back of their lives together, because we're all in this together. We're all having issues when it comes to our family distancing themselves from us because we don't want any parts of this religion. And it is kind of difficult. Yes, it is. But anyway, be sure to check out my next video when it drops. And I'll see y'all on the next one. And thank you so much for being in my audience.